said something to him, I can't remember, and he said, "We're coming for you," and I was like, "No, I'm coming on you."
This is Johnny and Jose with TigerBomb MMA, and today we'll be going over UFC 263, Adesanya versus Vettori 2, going over the entire card, giving you thoughts, predictions, possible prop bets, parlays, and all, etc. But yeah, we've got a rematch between Adesanya and Vettori, the Italian dream Vettori. Now he's fighting Adesanya for the championship, and we'll see if he can beat him this time. I know there was a split decision the first fight. Now that there's 5 rounds, is there a possibility he can sneak out a decision? Let's find out. But we'll start off the card with what Tapology says is the first fight, which is at bantamweight between Pannie Kianzad and Alexis Davis. Currently, the odds are minus 220 for Kianzad and plus 180 for Davis. And there's not much for me to really break down this one for. Davis, she did get a win over Sabina Mazo, but I've been saying it for the longest time. Sabina Mazo's not good yet. She's still young. I think she's 23 years old, but she got the vet lesson from Alexis Davis. As for Pannie Kianzad, I've been more impressed by her each and every fight that I've seen her in. Her performance that really got me to pay attention more so was the Betch Correa fight. I actually thought Betch was going to be able to actually defeat her by decision, just using some of her funky athletic boxing and just outpointing her. But no, she stuck in there. I liked what I saw from her. She's a pretty well-rounded fighter for 29 years old. She is taller by 1 inch, and although she is at a disadvantage with the reach by about 2 inches, I think she's going to be the more effective striker. Alexis Davis, like she's okay as a striker. She's good enough to beat inexperienced girls, but with Pannie coming in here, I think she's going to be too much to handle for Alexis Davis. She's 36 years old. I don't think she's going to pull off another upset win. I see Pannie winning this one by a decision. Alexis will definitely try to grapple, but we've seen Pannie really do well with her last fight against Eubanks, Sarge Eubanks. Although part of my concern is that she was a little too comfortable off of her back. But I will say, though, she did get some submission attempts and some pretty deep arm bars on Sarge, who is a black belt. So if it does come to that, I think she might even get the submission on Davis, but I will go with Kianzad to win this one by a unanimous decision.
Yeah, the only thing I agree. When it comes to Alexis Davis, the only thing that comes to mind is that first round's 16-second knockout to Ronda Rousey way back when, and then from there it's like that's all I can picture. I mean, since then she's gone, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 4 in the UFC. In the last 7 to 8 years. It isn't too great considering, she had a 3-fight skid against Chukagian, Jennifer Maia. When I see Jennifer Maia, I also picture the other Maia. What's his name? I think he's fighting here. Damian Maia, yeah. I was like, man, she lost to Damian Maia. That sucks. And Viviane Araujo. Sure, she beat Sabina Mazo, but it's not like Sabina Mazo was, it's not like it was a title challenger elimination fight or anything. She won that by decision. That's, I don't know, that to me wasn't all that great of a win. Pannie Kianzad has definitely the edge in the striking game. Her striking definitely has evolved. She's gotten significantly better since her loss to Julia Avila back in 2019. So I think she'll definitely have the edge on the feet. And as you mentioned, once Alexis Davis sees that she doesn't have any sort of chance on the feet, she's going to go try for a takedown. But then I think Pannie Kianzad's going to have more than enough on the feet to negate any sort of takedown or anything, any sort of desperation moves that Alexis brings to the table on that fight night. Not much more to say. I got Pannie by probably 30-27 at the very least. At the very least, maybe 29-28, depending how rusty she is, but for sure, she's going to dominate.
Our next matchup at light heavyweight, we've got the rematch between Eric Anders and Darren the Dentist Stewart. First fight ended in a illegal knee, which I don't know how you felt about it. That was a weird fight because I think we both picked Darren Stewart, and just speaking for myself, I was like, "What the fuck? This isn't the Darren Stewart I know." He did not look very good that fight, so I was going back and forth with this one because that knee wasn't too bad, but it saved my parlay, so I'm not gonna complain about it because I got the push on that one for the illegal no contest knee. This fight happening now, a lot of things changed because Eric Anders, when he came into the weigh-ins, I was like thinking to myself, damn, I put some pretty significant money on Darren Stewart, and Eric Anders is looking like a beast. Like, he looked really good. He just looked bigger than ever, and it kind of freaked me out. And then the fight happens, and he was looking really good, almost to the point that he was going to knock out Darren Stewart, which was surprising. Like, maybe him training with Fight Ready and Cejudo and all those dudes really put him back on track. But it's a tough one still. Even after seeing that first fight, I'm not too sold on Eric Anders. Something is still telling me that Darren Stewart's going to win. I completely bypassed the odds. Currently, the odds are, unsurprisingly, -145 for Anders, +125 for Stewart. There were some moments in there where Stewart, I don't want to say he hurt Anders, but he kind of clipped him. He did retaliate. Is it something that, I don't know how I'm wording this, but it could be potentially that Darren Stewart underestimated Eric Anders. I think throughout the whole time he was like, I'm going to run through him. I'm the better fighter. I'm working too hard. I'm running in swamps. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it sounded like he was ready, but maybe he didn't take him too seriously. It should still be a great fight between these two guys. I'm not too sold on it. I am leaning Anders because of what we saw the last fight. But I might take a shot again on Darren Stewart. I'm not pushing him out of my mind that quickly after that weird performance. So I think he might come back a little bit more focused and beat up Anders this time, because we've seen Anders kind of, I don't want to say he quits in there, but he doesn't perform to his absolute best. And what does scare me about this matchup is that he looked like he was performing to his absolute best his last fight. But we may be seeing something where he doesn't rarely pull the trigger. I'm going around in circles. I'll go with Darren Stewart. It might bite me in the ass, but I'll go with Darren Stewart. I think he catches him this time. I think he's going to be more prepared. Maybe he won't be running in swamps. Maybe the whole thing with the lockdown in Europe might have affected it. So I'll go with Stewart to win this one by a second round knockout.
After looking at their record, after taking a look at their records and who these guys have fought, who these guys have lost to, despite their last, their very last matchup. I am actually going with Anders on this one. They both, I think, have lost to guys that they could have not easily won, or easily beat, I should say. But these are matches that they could have potentially impressed with. You know what I mean? It's like Eric Anders. He lost against Christoph Jotko. He lost against Khalil Roundtree, Elias Doru. Thiago Santos. That's Mahita, right?
Yep.
That's Mahita. Yeah, that one's a tough one. And he lost against Machida, but this was 2018 Machida, so that's still passable. But I think I don't know, man. This is kind of a tough match in that, I actually thought originally Darren Stewart was a little bit older. I thought Eric Anders was a little bit younger, but it's kind of the reverse. Eric Anders is the senior most fighter here. But I think these guys have reached. I think both these guys have reached their peak in terms of, how well they're going to perform, and their skill sets. And that being the case, I think Eric Anders has a little bit more at this point. He throws a little bit more heat. And despite Darren Stewart going toe to toe with what's his face, the guy who talks a lot, Holland, Kevin Holland. I think Eric Andrews is going to edge him out, just barely though. So I'm going with Eric Andrews by maybe split decision, or at the very least, maybe a 29-28 decision. I don't know if he'll be able to knock him out unless he illegally, unless there's another illegal knee or some sort of 12-6 elbow or something. So I'll go with Eric Andrews on this one. I'm kind of on the fence anyway, because both of these guys are. Neither of these guys is worth betting on. So if anything, I'd say just stay away from this one.
Our next matchup at featherweight, we've got Stephen Ocho Peterson versus the twink Chase Hooper. Just joking, it's Pride Month, so I wanted to throw something in there. Currently, the odds are -130 for Peterson. That's I guess it's understandable, and then +110 for Chase Hooper. I understand the odds because of Chase Hooper's last performance. He was getting his ass beat. I wouldn't say it wasn't like, oh my God, he's stopped the fight, but he was losing the entire fight to slippery Pete Barrett. And then he pulled off that submission, the heel hook in the third round. And then Steven Peterson, I don't know. I understand he's the better striker between the two because Chase Hooper's striking is garbage. But Peterson knocked out Martin Bravo with that spinning back fist. It was almost like a fuck you spinning back fist because Bravo threw one and then he threw one right after immediately. And it was perfectly timed and it caught him right on the chin, but he was not doing good that fight. It's a strange fight between these two because we've got the younger 21-year-old Chase Hooper, the longer guy. He's 6'1" tall, 75.5" reach compared to Steven Peterson, 5'10", 70" reach. And man, if Chase Hooper could throw a punch properly, it'd be easy pickings. But man, we saw what happened in his last fight. He was not doing well until he got that submission. So it's a tough one to really pick. I'll go with Hooper, especially at dog odds. I predict him getting the submission. I think he can maybe push Stevenson up against the cage and eventually take him down and get a submission, probably a choke. I know Peterson's tough. The dude's a tough guy. He's not easily put out. Chase Hooper does have some pretty solid submissions. That's one thing I can't take away from the guy is that his ground game is like top notch. Like that heel hook that he got on Slippery Pete, it was pretty damn nice. Like most people don't really know the mechanics on how to finish a proper heel hook, but you can just tell that Chase Hooper knew exactly what to do. So yeah, I don't think Steven Peterson will be able to slip out of a submission, but I'll go with Hooper to win. I'm going to say second round, rear naked choke. Peterson maybe puts it on him a bit, gets a little too cocky. Chase takes him down, gets the back, chokes him out.
I'm actually going with Hooper, but for a slightly different reason. Peterson, actually, funny enough, he also lost to Alex Caceres by decision. But what stands out most to me is that he lost to Luis Pena by decision. We all know the dumpster fire that is Luis Pena's career. And having lost to that guy, this guy's automatically just, I can't really go with this guy. Chase Hooper, he's got potential. He's still a young guy. But I think his grappling is going to cause trouble for Peterson. Peterson is probably going to want to get off, in the first round, second round, and such. But I think Hooper is going to, get his ground game going probably toward the second half of the first round and on. And I think he's going to get that decision. So I think I'll go with Hooper by 29-28 decision, just based off, the fact that he's going to probably dominate the fight with his ground game.
Our next fight at lightweight, we've got a bout between Drew, the Doberman Dober, and Quake Brad Riddell. Before I forget, like always, the odds are currently -125 for Dober and +105 for Riddell. And I've kind of noticed, like his last few fights for Riddell, at least the ones that were announced, he was the underdog. He was a dog against Jesus Christ, Gregor Gillespie. I forgot his name, the greatest fisherman in the UFC. And it's a little surprising because he's Well, I guess I'll make my points as to why I think that is. As for Drew Dober, he came and recently lost to Islam Makhachev via. It's funny how it's funny how Tapology specifically has it as arm triangle choke from half guard. That's a really like shitty insult to somebody. Like, hey, he got half choked. He got choked from half guard. Like that's embarrassing. But it's a striker's battle between these two guys, and it's going to be a hell of a fight. I'm going to be super excited to watch this one, popcorn and all. Currently, between these two guys, the experience factor goes to Drew Dober. He's 23-10 and 9-1 for Riddell. That's for MMA. Both of these guys come from a kickboxing background. Drew Dober is a Muay Thai fighter with some ridiculous sized calves. If you ever looked at this dude's calves, his legs are huge. And for Riddell, of course, he has an extensive kickboxing background as well. So I don't think this is going to touch the ground. If it does touch the ground, I think Drew Dober is going to be the one that initiates it, but I don't think he will. I think he's going to go in there and do what he does best, and that's try to knock you out. And same thing for Riddell. Brad, I think the reason why he's been an underdog as of late is because he gets into certain positions and spots where he allows people to kind of beat his ass. Jamie Malarkey hurt him a bit in their fight. Alex De Silva was able to take him down and outstrike him for a bit. And it's concerning if you're betting on this guy, although he hasn't lost in the UFC. It's a little concerning. Between these two, if these guys get into a firefight, my money's on the chin of Drew Dober. Literally, that dude's chin is ridiculous. It's like sculpted out of marble, as I admire it. So I'll go with Drew Dober. I think he's the harder hitter between these two. Oddly enough, if you look at Brad Riddell's UFC record, I don't think he's knocked anyone out yet, compared to Drew Dober, who's knocked out some pretty interesting dudes. I don't want to say that they're chinny, but Alex Hernandez, he knocked him out. He knocked out Polo Reyes, who became chinny. And the one that sticks out is Nasrat Hakparas. He knocked that dude out cold, and I did not expect that to happen. So we know he trains hard. He might even have the cardio edge fighting out of elevation fight team. So I'll go with Drew Dober to win this one in a hell of a firefight. Second round knockout. He catches Brad Riddell, puts him out, and hopefully that doesn't affect Israel Adesanya in his fight.
Yeah, speaking of which, they're just bringing Riddell on here to, as a favor, or I don't know. Adesanya is like stamping his feet, like, I want my friends to fight. I want my friends to fight with me, please. And that fight alone, sure, he's 3-0 in the UFC, but he honestly has not impressed. He's won 3 decisions, 1 split. But this is definitely his toughest fight to date. Drew Dober, I always think Doberman. I always think of the dog. And the loss to Islam, regardless of whatever Tapology calls that particular submission he lost to a few months ago. There's no shame in that. Islam is the uncrowned champ, as we all know. He's just looking to get to that championship fight, so that he can prove that or rather so that he can get out of Khabib's shadow and bore us with those broken English interviews. So anyway, Drew Dober is definitely, I think, the tougher of the two guys. His losses as of late have been to these submission guys. He lost to Beneil Dariush several years ago. He lost to Olivier Aubin Mercier. I don't know how you pronounce his last name. He lost to Efrain Escudero. So his losses are, the last, 6 years or so have been to submissions. I don't believe Riddell is a submission guy. Therefore, I think Drew Dober is going to beat his ass. And then Adesanya is like, but my friends, I want them to keep fighting with me. And so we'll probably see Riddell on the next Adesanya card, regardless.
Our next matchup at lightweight, we've got a fight between Matt Steamroller Frevola and Frank the Crank Camacho. Currently, the odds are -200 for Frevola, Frank Camacho comes back plus 170. And I don't know how to justify picking Frank Camacho in this fight because his chin has failed him multiple times. Most recently against Justin James, who came into the UFC short notice and just whooped his ass in the first round. It was bad. I was like, oh, poor Frankie. Like he was just getting punched in the face and he just had this look on his face of like, where am I? And then it was just bad. For Frevola, his last fight was a decision loss to Arman Tsarukyan. And there's no shame in that because, as we all know, Arman Tsarukyan is the uncrowned lightweight champ. As for this fight between Frevola and Frank Camacho, I think pretty cut and dry. Frevola is going to attack the takedowns and work his ground and pound. Frank Camacho should, in my opinion, go for broke in the first round because that's all he has. Like his striking is good. He hits hard. And there's a chance because Frevola has been knocked out by Polo Reyes, I think, in his UFC debut. But I think just Frevola is just the more grittier fighter. Frank Camacho, I think he might just be at the end of his run at this point. He's 32 years old, but in my opinion, I think he might just be done. He's taken a lot of punishment. The fight between him and Jeff Neal, man, he got battered by Jeff Neal, and it was one of the nastiest knockouts, a head kick that put him out. And then he did come back and knock out Nick Hein, but that's Nick Hein, that steroided German, whatever. I feel bad for Frank Camacho. I'm a pretty big fan of Frank, but I can't bet this guy. I have to go with Matt Frevola. I think he'll implement his takedowns. He'll move forward like the steamroller that he is and just roll over Frank Camacho. So I'll go with Frevola to win by first round knockout.
Yeah, I don't think this is a time for people to confuse Frank Camacho with the guy from the 90s, Macho Camacho. He is not as macho as that guy. And it was funny when I heard you say Frank the Crank, I was like, wait, isn't that the guy from that movie, from Old School or something? Oh no, that's Frank the Tank. Never mind. Frank Camacho, yeah, he's well past his prime if he ever had one. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe he did it in his youth. But he's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. And that single, who was that single win against? That single win was against Nick Hein. That's not great. He got smothered in mashed potatoes and gravy by Justin James in his last time out. And we all know what a poser is Justin James out of the UFC already? Did he get cut?
I don't know if he's been cut officially yet, but I can see why they would keep him. The dude he's a fun punching bag. He's a good little step up, not step up in competition, but a padding for an up and comer's record.
Yeah, Justin James is a 1 round, and he'll blow his load in 1 round, and I guess he's kind of exciting in that sense. But anyway. Getting blasted by a guy like that, and that guy was exposed, doesn't look too good. And I think Matt Steamroller is ready to make his, he's going to make his post-fight speech and say, I'm back or something. That always gets on my goddamn nerves because if you're here, then where the hell were you? You know what I mean? It's you. It's not like you're back. I guess in a sense they're back in the winning column, so I guess that makes sense. Anyway,
I was gonna say, did Anderson Silva's "I back"? Trust me, I back. You just get under your skin so bad that
possibly, yeah, that's one thing that gets under my goddamn. Some guys are like, yeah, I'm back. Yeah, and most people on the Tapology site seem to agree that Matt Rolla is going to steamroller Camacho. I think Camacho, he is probably going to get cut after this fight. They're cutting, once cut season or whenever they get around to cutting, batch of fighters. So I think they release them in batches right before the Dana White's Contender Series starts. Anyway, I'm going with Matt Frevola, 2nd round TKO.
Next matchup at flyweight, the most anticipated flyweight bout of all time, Lucky Lauren Murphy versus JoJo Joanne Calderwood. Man, I kind of caught myself being tongue-tied with that lie. Currently, the odds are minus 125 for Calderwood. The comeback on Murphy plus 105. I recently met Lauren Murphy, and just to give you an idea that I have no idea what her career trajectory is, I asked her, "Hey, how are the negotiations with Valentina going?" And she's like, "Well, actually, I have a fight lined up." I'm like, "Oh, for real? Where? When?" And it's like, "Oh, I'm fighting Joanne Calderwood." And I'm just like, "When was that announced?" And she's like, "A couple months ago." And it was the most awkward conversation because like I was like, "Oh shit!" Like it's like not only were people there not to see her, they were there to see Derek Lewis. Like she walked in and no one knew she was there. Everyone, I remember my girlfriend's asking me like, "Oh, when is Lauren Murphy coming?" I'm like, "She's been here for like 20 minutes." She just snuck in, no one cared. But yeah, the picture you'll see of her is with me and her. And because usually via the rules of like say SureDog or MMA websites, if you post a picture of yourself, you tend to get photoshopped. I'll do it for you. I'll put a dick in my face. Enjoy. As for this matchup, Lauren Murphy, like I don't want to keep disrespecting her as much as I've done already and to her face, but I don't understand how she's on a 4-fight winning streak. She's not to mention not to bring up her age. She is 37 years old, but that I don't think that has anything to do with it. But her fights have been kind of strange, where she was losing the entire fight to Mara Barella, and then she ends up getting lucky and getting the TKO. I think she landed a knee and then finished her, but she was getting dominated that whole fight. Andrea Lee split decision. I thought she lost that fight. Uh, Roxanne Modafferi, it's Roxanne. I'm not gonna say that was a robbery. And then she ends up beating a newcomer to the UFC in Shakirova, and she does finish her, but then she starts calling for a title shot. Like you don't finish a newcomer and then start demanding a title shot. As for JoJo, JoJo is JoJo. If you look at her record, it's a win loss, win loss, win loss. She had a guaranteed fight with Valentina, and then she ended up essentially putting herself in an armbar with Jennifer Maia, and she got that stolen from her. But I will say though, her fight with Jessica Eye, it showed that a JoJo with a clear head and nothing in her way, because she's had issues with her coach. I think her coach slash boyfriend dumped her, and that kind of messed her up. But stuff like that, if you're not professional enough to separate your personal life and your fighting career, and things like that tend to come up on you, and you perform like shit, it's kind of scary. What if he fucking leaves the toilet seat up and you're gonna lose your fight? Deal with it. And I'm not always confident in Calderwood, but I am definitely not confident in Lauren Murphy to win. She can win if she sneaks out a decision somehow, but I think Calderwood is just the better everything, the better striker, the better. I don't want to say she's the better grappler, but she has better grappling. The reason I don't say she's the better grappler because she got armbarred by Jennifer Maia and she gave her the fucking armbar. But I'll go with Calderwood to win this one by a decision. It should be an easy win for Calderwood, but do not be surprised if she makes it a lot closer by her being JoJo.
Yeah, um, this is not an easy fight to call, being that both of these are, the UFC really scraped the bottom of the barrel to put this fight together. Uh, I guess when I initially looked at Lauren Murphy's bio, I guess maybe I was using my older pair of glasses and I saw that she was 32 years old, and I was like, oh, that's, she's got, doesn't look that bad for 32. But when I realized she was 37, I was like, holy crap, never mind. Anyway, yeah, so I'm using my newer pair of glasses now. They're helping out a bit. Um, Holy crap, yeah, 37 years old at 120. I can just kind of, spend several minutes just oohing and awing at that. 37 years old, gosh. Uh, yeah, Joanne Calderwood. She's very what's the word? not. I wouldn't be confident calling her fights ever again, just due to the fact that she loses when she's supposed to win and she wins when she's supposed to lose. Very, very strange. She has, as of the last 2+ years, she's been exchanging wins and losses. If she's going to keep going in that trajectory, then she's set to lose to Lauren Murphy by decision, I'm guessing, or maybe by armbar. Because Lauren Murphy's unless I'm thinking of somebody else. Lauren Murphy's is I don't know if submission whiz is the right word. She's got some ground game, I suppose. Maybe I am thinking of somebody else. I don't know who though. Not Lauren Murphy. It's oh well, doesn't really matter.
You're thinking of Leon Murphy.
Leron Murphy, probably. But Lauren Murphy took out Roxanne Modafferi. Not an easy win. Considering Roxanne is the she's the ultimate underdog. When she's like a super big underdog in fights, she comes through for some reason, man. I don't know what it is. She came through against Andrea Lee. I don't know if it's maybe she just doesn't she decides not to use deodorant on fight day, or I don't know what, but she seems to just have the edge over these girls that are supposed to be big time favorites against her. But anyway, yeah, here I don't know, man. I really don't have, just based off of my observations, I would say I'll take Lauren Murphy by submission. I probably just jinxed it, and Calderwood is gonna come in with the greatest performance of her career to date. But based off of what you told me, Lauren Murphy didn't seem like she had a big head. She seemed like she was, fairly, I don't know, maybe insulted that you didn't know that she had a fight with JoJo coming up. And so I think that's probably the fire that lit, you lit a fire under Lauren Murphy. And she's going to come out and submit JoJo in the second round via armbar. So I'll take Lauren Murphy.
I mean, she was really nice, so I feel bad kind of talking shit a little bit, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Next up, a much better fight between Mean Hakeem Dawodu and Movsar Evloev taking place at featherweight. Oh, yeah, this is a good one. The odds are currently -250 for Evloev, +210 for Dawodu. And to be 100% frank, although I'm, I guess, officially one of the Evloev nut huggers, I think it's a lot closer than that. The odds are a little ridiculous. Like, the fan in me of Evloev is like, yay, he's getting respect. But the better in me is also like, what? I don't know, man. Like, Hakeem poses some threats to Evloev. And the match is very, very good. The guys are evenly matched. 27 for Evloev, 29 for Dawodu. They're both very young. 5'7" Evloev, 5'8" Dawodu, 72-inch reach for Dawodu, 72.5-inch reach for Evloev. A fascinating fight. And records are nearly similar. 14-0 for Evloev, 12-1 and 1 for Dawodu. And Dawodu, I'm not really a fan of the guy. I respect his style, but I tend to fade him quite a bit. And I need to learn my lesson fading Dawodu. He does overperform sometimes. I picked him against Tukagov, and he essentially outpunked him that entire fight. It was one of the strangest performances from Zubaira I've ever seen. I don't know. He just looked like completely lost, and Hakeem just kind of walked him down. Not to say that he was landing punches at will. He just literally walked him down and yelled at him like, hey, let's fight. One thing that I tend to have in the back of my mind is his fight with Yoshinori Horii. When that fight happened and that fight was announced, I immediately put a lot of money on Dawodu. I'm like, yeah, he's going to run through this guy. But he was losing rounds to Horii, and it was concerning. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I know Hori's a little unorthodox, but you should be able to cut off the cage and do something. He eventually did catch him, head kicked him, and knocked him out, but he seemed a little too tentative. it was a bit concerning. His takedown defense is pretty good. Zabara did try to take him down multiple times, and he was able to stuff those and eventually get the win. Evloev, I've talked this kid up quite a bit. He's just some sort of specimen from Russia that they let out of a test tube 27 years ago, and now he's in the UFC and more than likely going to continue his undefeated streak. I love the way he strikes. His wrestling is excellent. Takedown defense is great. Submission defense is great. The only concern, not concern, but my only thing against the guy is that he doesn't seem to have a whole ton of knockout power. Although he can definitely win a fight via decision if he needs to get the respect of a guy like Hakeem Dawodu, I'm not sure if he has the power to do so. So when I say that it could be a closer fight, I mean, yes, Hakeem could essentially outpoint Evloev by just landing maybe that extra shot, maybe a jab and then a low kick. Not to say that it's going to be like the most devastating combination ever, but in the judge's eyes, sometimes the combinations win you the fights, and Hakeem Dawodu does have those combinations. I will say though, Evloev does have enough power to knock out Hakeem. He did lose to Danny Hatchett. What's his last name? Danny, whatever. Danny the Hatchet. He got choked out by him. He rocked him bad, and he eventually got him in that choke, which was, I believe, his UFC debut, if not his second fight. So it is concerning when it comes to Hakeem's chin. I think if you land the right shot in the right time, you knock him out or at least hurt him. He tends to remind me of Governor. What's his name? Gavin Tucker. Gavin Tucker not ever showed to have a weird chin or a weak chin because he's never been knocked out. And then Dan Ige knocks him out with one punch. And it's like, what the fuck? What? So I get a feeling that Hakeem Dawodu has one of those chins that if he hasn't really been touched incredibly hard by his last opponents, and if Evloev lands something significant, I think he can put him out. But I think Evloev wins this one by a decision. Again, I think it's going to be a closer decision. I think Hakeem might win a round and scare a lot of people. If you do bet on Evloev, I might stay away from it, but I will go with the over. We'll see how the odds are for that. Probably not going to be great, but I will go with the over for Evloev to win by a decision. So, yeah, Movsar Evloev decision at the very least 29-28, unanimous.
When I look at Dawodu, you know the movie Bloodsport, when Van Damme goes up against that guy who, you know, doesn't say anything, but he points at Van Damme, and then he does that motion with his hands like he's going to break his neck or his spine or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then the referee, you know, he waves his hand, you know, and he starts the fight. And then Van Damme immediately, you know, kicks him. And the guy's like, oh, you know, and then he, you know, he immediately, what does he do? I think he rolls on the ground and then high kicks him, and then the guy flies out of the ring or something.
Of course.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I watch Bloodsport every year, once a year.
Yeah, I don't know if I narrated that correctly, but anyway, that's what I see when I see Dawodu. You know, when he comes up against either a high-level Taekwondo karate guy or, you know, Muay Thai guy. Anyway, Evloev is not that guy, so I don't I don't foresee that happening in this particular fight. And to your point, yeah, he doesn't seem like he has that power because that's not his style. His style is more like the grind. You know, he's more into the grind in that, you know, he's one of this, you know, he's one of these Russian breed that there's level to that grind, to that wrestling, to that grappling. And these Russians, they take it to the highest level possible, man. Excuse me. I don't know if he's, you know, ever going to get to that Khabib level of wrestling and domination. But he's, you know, he's getting to a pretty high level, I would say. So I see this fight going, you know, Dawodu getting some pretty hard hits, or trying to get some hard hits in that first round. But toward the second half of that first round, that's when Evloev is going to start his, you know, chain wrestling or chain, you know, try to get those chain submissions and such. And sure, I think he may stuff one or two, but there's levels to that wrestling, because these guys, they can practice their takedown defense all they want. They're like, oh yeah, I'm ready for it. But then once they get into the octagon with guys like Khabib and a lot of these relentless Russian wrestlers, try saying that 5 times, 10 times fast. They realize like, oh crap, I guess I didn't practice enough. So I think Evloev is certainly going to get that decision. I don't know if he'll be able to finish him, because Dawodu is a pretty tough guy. But I think he's going to keep his streak going. So I'll take Evloev by 29-28 decision, possibly a 30-27 decision, depending on how the judges view that first round. But I think Dawodu is going to get smothered for the rest of the fight once Evloev gets that wrestling going.
Our next matchup at lightweight, we've got a fight between the Smile Killer, Ziam, and the Italian Stallion, Luigi Vendramini. Currently, the odds are, if I can ever find them, pretty accurate. -115 for Ziam, -105 for Vendramini. And between this is the one fight, I should say, that I fully staying away from. I don't have a good read on this one whatsoever. I was just watching tape on both of these guys recently to try to get a good idea of who would win, and I'm just not sold on either guy. So I can't give you a huge, specific, detailed breakdown between these two. I will say, though, I am leaning towards Firas to win this one, just mainly because he's the taller guy, 6'1", 75-inch reach. And Luigi, he got knocked out by Zaleski. He came back and he beat Justin Ayari by a head kick and knockout. Pretty nice knockout. He was very aggressive. The thing about it is that I don't know if he's going to be able to really close the distance on Firas and not get hurt. Then again, who knows? Again, I don't have the best read on this one. I know Luigi's very aggressive. Firas isn't as aggressive, but he's more of a technical striker. Very good low kicks, very nice long reach jab. It's a tough one. We'll see how this goes, but I think it primarily will stay on the feet. So I'll go with Firas to win this one by a decision.
Yeah, Firas definitely has the physical attributes to keep this on the feet and keep this to where he's comfortable striking and not getting punched or kicked. But then again, we have seen guys like what's his name, Buster Bluth, the Buster Bluth of the lightweight division. What's his name?
James Vick.
James Vick. Yeah, I was gonna say Victor something, but no. Yeah, we've seen guys like James Vick. We've seen the flaming garbage cans. That is that ginger Afro puff guy. What's his name? Luis Pena.
Yeah, like you hate him so much you forgot his name.
Yeah, Luis Pena, Stefan Struve. So we have seen lengthy guys that don't know how to use that length. And we're talking about their 4 limbs, their arms and legs. I'm not talking about anything else. For all you other guys, I don't know how about those lengths, but
Pride
anyway,
Month.
yeah. So we have seen guys that have the significant reach advantage, both for their arms and and height advantage, that don't know how to use it. Don't know if Firas is going to be able to. Well, here's the thing: if Firas's path to victory, I see as being not having the best leg work, footwork, whatever you want to call it, but just having enough to not let Luigi corner him, or just kind of keep in front of him. As long as he works some angles, I think he should be okay. Meanwhile, Luigi, I think Luigi's path to victory will be to try to get on the inside if he is going to go the striking route. But that's going to be pretty hard because a 5-inch height advantage. Not that it's impossible, but it would be. I think it would if his team is looking to come up with a game plan where they're going to have him going, try to go on the inside to try to knock out Faris for us. I think that's doing him a disservice. I think his best path to victory is to maybe get it to he is part of the constrictor team, so I'm guessing that's a heavy jiu-jitsu squad. And so his path to victory should be trying to get this fight on the ground, keep it on the ground, dominate on the ground to get those points, as well as maybe try to get those submissions or possibly a TKO, depending on how good Faras's ground game is. So I'd say if Luigi can manage to do that, I can probably get the win. But I don't know which. I'd say there's a bigger chance of Faraz, dominating on the feet, keeping the distance, working those angles, than there is of Luigi, getting this fight to the ground and maybe dominating that way. But who knows? Luigi might, get backed up into the cage, jump off the cage, do a front flip, twirly kick, and knock out Faraz for all we know in the second round. But if I'm forced to make a pick, I'll take Faraz. Maybe second round head kick KO.
Our next matchup at heavyweight, we've got Carlos Felipe versus the prototype Jake Collier. And looking at him now, he's a prototype because, he would never go into the line of production the way he looks now. We've talked a lot of shit on Jake Collier for the last couple of fights because if those of you don't know, he used to fight at middleweight, light heavyweight, and he looked good. He had abs, and then he just ate himself or something. I remember seeing him in his weigh-in versus Tom Aspinall, and I'm thinking who the fuck's this guy? Who the fuck is this guy? And I'm like, wait a minute, who is this guy? Who are you? Intruder. And then I'm like, that's Jake Collier. Oh shit. Damn. And yeah, it threw me off when I first saw him. But currently the odds are -200 for Felipe. Collier comes back at +170. And interesting fight at heavyweight because heavyweights have heavyweight power and anything can happen. But from what I've seen between both of these guys, I like both of these guys. As much shit as I give Jay Collier, as much as I say that he looks like Chaz Bono, I like the guy. He came through in his last fight as the underdog against Gian Vellante because although it's Gian Vellante, so it's not oh my god, it was a huge upset, but he beat Gian Vellante the way I thought he would beat him, and I think he'd do the same with Carlos Felipe, especially at underdog money at heavyweight. I'm going to go with Jay Collier. And the reasons for that is that he is the bigger guy, 6'3". He's got a 78.5-inch reach. That's a 3.5-inch reach advantage over Felipe. Felipe's last fight, although he won via split decision, it was a split decision against Justin Tafa, and he was losing a good chunk of that fight. I don't blame the judges for giving it to Felipe, but the argument could be made that Tafa did clearly win that fight. It is what it is. I'm not here to give you my opinions on that one. But for Carlos, I like a lot of what he does. He attacks the body. He's very aggressive, and he doesn't just aim for your head. He sets up combinations well. But Jake Collier, that's his game. I don't know if he can do it now, but he can throw spinning back kicks to the body. But yeah, I'm going to go with Jake Collier to win this one. I think it's going to be a really good back and forth stand-up battle. And I think Jake Collier is going to eventually decision Felipe because I think the longer reach, the diversity in attack that he has, again, even though he's a big, large 265-pound man, I think he still has that ability and that athleticism. It's just that he enjoys his Twinkies. So I'll go with Jake Collier to win by decision. Carlos Felipe, I just don't see a clear path for him to win. I don't think his body work is going to really affect the padding that Jake Collier has. So I'll go with Collier to win by a decision.
Funny, I'm actually seeing the path to victory for Carlos Felipe as what you just described for Collier. I think Carlos Felipe, and this is, take the statement for what you will. I think he has the better cardio of the two. Sure, he lost to Sergey Spivak in his UFC debut, but he bounced back with decision wins by to Jorgen De Castro and Justin Tafa. Both of these are actually tough guys, so that's why I'm taking his wins over them. Regardless of whether he got a split decision or not. His wins over these two guys, because these guys are beasts. They have dynamite in their hands, and Carlos Felipe, he's no let me say who's a good he's no like early mid 2000s shogun or anything with regard to his boxing, nor is he as flexible as Anderson Silva, or we could go down the line. He isn't as athletic as all these other Brazilians and such, and I don't think he's got the jiu-jitsu of Verdum, or we can shit on him all day. But what this guy has is he's the Brazilian, I don't know, but the Brazilian stallion. Does that make any sense? The Brazilian
Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, he's a Brazilian. I don't know if he can do that impression, but anyway, I think he's got the grit to. And funny enough, man, I thought he was talking crap to Jorgen De Castro and I think Justin Tafa. I was like, who does this? He got a little bit on my nerves. I was like, what? Who's this guy think who's this guy think he is to be talking crap to these guys? But I don't know, I guess he got in their head a little bit. He was talking crap at the weigh-ins and during the fight. And I was like, all right, I guess his strategy worked. But anyway, I see this fight going to Carlos Felipe. I could be wrong. But I think, Jay Collier definitely made a mistake. He should cut back on the Twinkies and at least go to light heavyweight, man. Because at light heavyweight, even at 6'3", I think he'd be, if he gets in pretty good shape, I think he'd be in a lot better position. I don't know if heavyweight necessarily his weight, especially in his condition. If he got anywhere close to what Francis Ngannou's conditioning is, I think he'd be, he'd do a lot better at heavyweight, but I don't see it happening against Carlos Felipe. So I'll take Carlos by decision.
Before we begin the main card, I'd like to ask you guys, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. We love getting those, love responding to you, but we won't waste any more time with that. Main card opener, Leon Edwards versus Nathan Diaz. Currently, the odds have it at minus 485 for Edwards, plus 385 for Diaz. Those odds basically are saying that Diaz is spelled Diass because there's no way in hell he's going to win this fight against Rocky Edwards. But let's play make-believe. How do you think Nate Diaz is going to win this fight against Rocky Edwards?
I think Diaz's path to victory is, getting a translator and getting them to translate all the trash talk that goes along with, any sort of Diaz matchup. And I think once he does that, Leon Edwards might shake a little bit in his boots. And if he's wearing a hat, Diaz might, slap that hat off his head. That might shake him up a little bit more. He might talk crap about the quality of fish and chips of wherever the hell Edwards comes from. That might insult him a bit and get him a little bit salty for fight night. And then, if he does, I think all that, I think Edwards will be off his game come fight night, and Nate Diaz will run through him like he did. What's his name? Showtime Pettis. But realistically, man, this is Nate Diaz is realistically a lightweight. He's just going down. He's just fighting at welterweight because it's a lot easier for him to, get these fights. but he's against actual welterweights. He's never really done well, and he's let's see, when was the last time he fought? Yeah, he fought Rory McDonald, Dong Hyun Kim. This was almost a decade ago. When he made his first run at welterweight, and then he fought McGregor. He fought a ginger midget, he fought Pettis, and then he fought Masvidal at welterweight. And so now he's trying to make another run at welterweight. It's not going to go well for him. And funny enough, I actually got their ages reversed. I thought Edwards was 36 and Diaz was 29, but I'm like, oh wow, Edwards does not age well. But if Diaz decides not to get a translator and he tries to make all his peanut butter mouth comments, it might also frustrate Edwards. The fact that he doesn't understand any of his insults, that might shake him a little bit. But I don't know, man. I don't really see Diaz winning here. I don't know what his intent is on coming back. I can only guess that I don't know if he needs the money. I think it's more the fact that he just needs to keep his name out there. You know what I mean? Keep himself relevant so that he can keep slinging his CBD products and keep the sponsors coming, I suppose. Because him beating Edwards, unless Edwards is completely looking through Diaz, or looking past Diaz, I should say. Edwards has, he's more athletic. Diaz, they have the cardio and the endurance, but they're not. They don't have those fast twitch muscles that a lot of these guys have. So I don't think he's going to beat him to the punch, nor does he have, I think, the strength to, knock him out unless Edwards just completely disregards his punches and just lets him slap him around for a little bit. Am I looking forward to this fight? Not really. I mean, it's not, are they, if Edwards wins, is this enough to get him, the next title fight? I'll probably give it to him because, Usman, I don't know if I read something correctly, or maybe I imagined it, because I also had a weird dream that I attended Derek Chauvin's execution. That was so I don't know if I imagined the headline of Usman versus fighting Covington as well. That's weird because I haven't been able to find it, so I don't know if that was part of the dream. It was weird, man. Weird, very weird dream.
That's a strange dream. It's like very random.
Yeah, man. That's like stayed with me all like the last few days, man. I was like, why the hell would I attend his execution?
You think they're really gonna execute him?
No, I don't know. It's like I dreamt that I attended like his execution, like the electric chair execution.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Let's move on from that specific topic.
Yeah.
that's just fucking hilarious.
So anyway, that headline is weird. So to me, is this, this, I guess Edwards just took this fight because who the hell else is he? I don't know, man. It's been kind of a rough time for Edwards. He hasn't been able to find anybody to fight, or his fights have just fallen through. And so he's like, fuck it. This is a high profile fight for him. But as far as Diaz, this is just like, I think, a money grab for him. To me, this is no different than, Woodley fighting Jake Paul or whatever. It's, Woodley's been cut from the UFC. What does he have to lose? You know what I mean? He's lost to, he lost to Colby Covington. So that there, he can't live that down ever. So why not lose to a YouTuber? Anyway, so I don't think we're going to cover that, but yeah, I don't think I think Tyron Woodley's no better off than Ben Askren in that thing, because I don't think his overhand is going to, that's basically, so Jake Paul has like 3 months to, figure out how to shoulder roll, that overhand right. And once he does that, it's like, what else is Woodley going to do? Just back up against the ring, the ring. Anyway.
That's funny.
So here, am I really looking forward to this fight? Not really. This is just, like I said, it's comparable to Diaz to that, just because he's, what is he really realistically coming back for? Other than to keep his name relevant, to sell his products, his sponsors and whatnot. So here I'm actually going to take Leon Edwards by decision. I don't think he's going to be able to knock out Diaz. Nor do I think Diaz is going to be able to outbox Edwards. Edwards has better hands than he does. He's younger, and I think at this point Edwards is pretty damn fresh. He should be. It's not like he's been fighting for the last however long, so he should be relatively injury free. He might just be a little bit rusty, or they both probably will be. So I'm gonna take Edwards by way of that freaky Derek Chauvin execution dream.
The way I see this one going, Edwards is going to clinch up with Nate. He's going to throw one of his beautiful exiting elbows to the dome. It's going to get stopped by Dr. Stoppage, second round. So second round cut. Diaz is going to bitch and whine about, like, I need to fight, bullshit, and it's just going to be a TKO win. So if you're looking for that prop, I can see it. I had a dream that Leon Edwards won via cut. And what's funny is I've been picking his opponents to win, Diaz's opponents to win by cut for like the longest time. Dr. Stoppage. Actually, I was in Colorado at the time during the Masvidal fight, and I didn't get a chance to go to the casino because I don't like betting online for particular reasons. But I would have bet that he won by Dr. Stoppage or cut or TKO in general. And I was going to drop a shit ton of money on that fight. But yeah, whatever. It is what it is. I don't know why I'm bringing it up. It's like, sound like a bitch. Like, I was going to win money, but I didn't. But no, Leon Edwards win this one by I'm going to say second round TKO, more than likely a cut, because as we know, the reason Nate Diaz looks like shit at 36 is because he's been cut up a lot. So we'll move on to the next fight at welterweight. Damian Maia versus Bilal. Remember the name Muhammad. It's funny that they're having these two guys fight in the same card. I know we didn't discuss it in the earlier fight with Leon Edwards, but the eye poke, whatever. That Leon Edwards looked amazing in that fight, and then I have to say it, that eye poke was the best thing to happen to Bilal, because he was inching closer and closer to getting knocked out. But this is a completely different matchup against Damian Maia, not the level caliber striker that Leon Edwards is. But although the myth of K1 Maia still lives on in my heart, because he does have some deceptive power, but this is going to be a pretty fun fight. I actually am looking forward to this one. The odds are currently, minus 230 for Muhammad. A comeback on Maia is plus 190. And I'll be really very quick with this one. I think Maia is going to do what Maia does. It doesn't matter if he's 43 years old. I just think he still has the strength, the technique, the overall determination to win, and with the jiu-jitsu, because Bilal Muhammad, he's a cardio machine. He does land a lot of punches on guys. It's just that he also does go for the takedown, and I cannot see him running away from Damian Maia for the whole 3 rounds without getting taken down at least once. And we've seen it time and time again that if Damian Maia gets you down in a completed takedown, or if he takes your back, you are fucked. So I will go with Damian Maia to win this one I'll go with second round submission. I mean, Bilal Muhammad, he's tough. This is one of these matchups that, like, I don't like betting against Damian Maia. Like, it was smart to bet against Damian Maia against Gilbert Burns, because Gilbert Burns has the power and he has the jiu-jitsu, but Bilal Muhammad isn't known to have the power. He's not known to have the greatest jiu-jitsu, although it is solid, but it's nowhere near the level it needs to be to stop a submission from Damian Maia. So it could be one of these fights where Bilal Muhammad just whips up a washed up Damian Maia, but I see it that Maia does have enough in the tank to win at least one more fight by submission, or at the very least by decision. I'll go with Damian Maia to win. And I don't want to say he should retire because I love seeing Damian Maia. That dude surprises me each and every time. Shit, he might even get a knockout because he does have that type of weird, sneaky, weaky power. So I'm going Maia regardless. I'll go with second round submission. Dude has not let me down when I bet him as an underdog.
Yeah, this one's tough, man. And I want to go with Maia, but my gut's telling me Muhammad, because I did forget his name. But yeah, I think I'm going with the youth on this one. I think Bilal's going to have enough on the feet to keep to keep Maia honest. But he is going to eventually take him down. I see him taking him down like the second half of the first round, maybe sometime in the second round. But I think Bilal's going to have just enough on the feet to get that decision. So I'm taking him by either split decision or possibly that 29-28. But I'll be going with Muhammad on this one.
Next fight at light heavyweight, we've got the fight between Paul the Bear Jew Craig and Sweet Dreams Jamal Hill. The odds are currently minus 290 for Hill and plus 245 for Craig. Very accurate. It's very likely that Jamal Hill is going to win by knockout. It's picking when. First round, second round, third round. Realistically, not third round. But fascinating fight because Paul Craig has had a slight resurgence to the point that he is looking, I don't want to say like a contender, but how can I phrase it without being an asshole? He's a poser contender at this point. Like the fact that he's fighting Jamal Hill, who is 8-0 in the UFC with vicious knockouts, it's seeming like they're giving Jamal Hill this light little underhanded ball for him to hit out of the park. Realistically, because Paul Craig's chin is hella suspect. Surprisingly, the fights with Shogun, who when I saw Paul Craig knock out Shogun, or at least he tapped out the strikes, I was like, I don't know how to feel right now, because Paul Craig beating Shogun with strikes, it kind of is depressing as hell to me. But he is on a bit of a good, I don't want to say he's a great win streak, but Paul Craig is on a somewhat win streak. He submitted Vinicius Morea. He went to a split decision draw with Shogun the first time. He subbed Antigulov, and then he knocked out Shogun. And one could say the win streak is giving him a certain confidence on the feet. Paul Craig has looked a lot better on the feet, but I'm just going on in circles. Either way, I'm going with Jamal Hill to win by a first round knockout. His takedown defense has impressed. His knockout power has impressed. I picked against him against OSP because I thought OSP was going to have one of those moments where he just does his thing and he beats up and submits another up and comer, but he passed the OSP test. He's got the longer reach. Overall, the better fighter. I wouldn't say he's better on the ground, but as long as he avoids that, he should win. The first time these two engage, I see Jamal Hill knocking him out clean. So I'll go with Jamal Hill first round knockout. I'm going to say uppercut. I'm going to say uppercut when Paul Craig goes for a takedown. Boom, there it is.
Yeah, Jamal Hill definitely has, I think, I would say if the Bear Jew can get past that first round and then start implementing his ground game in the second and third round, he could get the decision. But that's going to be tough because Jamal Hill has not just the skill, but I think he has the patience. And I think that patience is what got him through that OSP fight. Not to negate his skill and whatnot, because he does have, pretty good boxing, I would say, but it's his patience that I think is gonna uh, probably win him this fight. I mean, I like the Bear Jew. I like Paul Craig. I like the fact that he didn't let Shogun ruin his legacy. That draw, split decision to Shogun. He came back and he showed that he is a superior fighter to of extremely diminished Shogun. But against an up and comer like Jamal Hill, this is going to be tough, because against up and comers, Paul Craig has not done so well. To illustrate that, especially Jimmy Crute, Khalil Roundtree, and so on. So I think Jamal Hill's probably going to take this one. I would say second round TKO.
Our next matchup, our co-main event, and one of two championship bouts, Davison Diosegera Figueiredo versus Brandon the Baby Assassin, or the Assassin Baby, I should say. That's even worse. Moreno. The first fight, man, I know a lot of people were upset, like, oh, Davison won that fight. Shouldn't have been a draw. A lot of people were pissed about that draw, but it was a draw. And here we are. We have the second match of one of the best fights of that year. Man, that was an incredible fight between these two guys. It overperformed. And that is mostly because of Brandon Moreno and his toughness, his just ballsiness to go in there and fighting Davison the way, man, he hurt Davison a couple times. And it was insane. I was like, damn, like maybe Brandon is going to be champion. I actually thought at the end of it, because when I'm watching fights, I tend to score them in my head. I didn't score this one, so I'm thinking maybe Brandon won because of the point deduction and all this bullshit. Maybe he could have won a couple of the rounds and then just edged it out, but no, it was a draw. I think rightfully so. The second bout is going to be very interesting between these two. There was a lot of talk about Davison being sick during that fight, which I do not believe. For whatever, I don't know, maybe it's true. I just don't believe the fact that Davison Figueiredo fought like that when he was sick, because he fought very well and his cardio held up. I honestly thought his cardio would not hold up against Brandon Moreno in the later rounds, and it did. I was very surprised. Did I mention the odds? I got super hyped about this one. The odds are minus 235 for Figueiredo, comeback on Moreno, plus 195. So he's still the underdog for Moreno. And I think they should give him a little bit more respect, because I still see a path of victory for Moreno. I actually can see him knocking out Davison, because, man, Davison hits hard, but Moreno's got that patented Mexican toughness, and I don't see him knocking him out. If anything, I see this going to a decision again. Man, if Davison knocks out Brandon Moreno, that's just like adding to his incredible legacy, because like I hold Brandon Moreno pretty damn high. Just his toughness, his grappling, his I don't know what it is. He's got the X factor that he just doesn't quit. And the fact that he went to a draw with Figueiredo, it puts him higher on my list. And I would like to pick him to win. I realistically can see him winning in the later rounds, but I do think this goes to a decision again. But I see the decision going to Davison. As long as he doesn't do anything stupid like he did in the first fight and getting a point deducted, I can see him just edging out the decision. I don't see a submission happening. I don't see a finish happening really on Davison's side as much as I'd like to. Again, if he was really sick during that first fight and he comes in healthy and we see this different level of Figueiredo, then I'll be incredibly impressed. But I do see this one just going to a decision. So I'll go with Davison to win by a decision. I think he should realistically win 4 out of the 5 rounds. I think Moreno might have a pretty good comeback in the later rounds, maybe the 4th or the 5th. But yeah, I see Davison edging this out 4-1 by decision.
A couple things to take note of. The Tapology stats have Davison Figueiredo coming in at 5'5" and Brendan Moreno coming in at 5'7". That was the opposite. I could have sworn Figueiredo was a taller one when they faced off, and when they fought, but I don't know. That's kind of weird. But according to this, Brandon Moreno had the height and reach advantage, which still seems odd to me. I don't see that.
Yeah, he didn't seem that much taller than him. I will say that.
Yeah, but one other thing to note is that Brandon, I became an actual, where I can actually say, yeah, I'm a Brandon Moreno fan versus kind of mumbling it, if somebody ever asked. But I became a Brandon Moreno fan because one, he's a very likable guy. He's a really damn tough fighter. And I saw the what is the countdown, or those YouTube videos that the UFC puts out on a daily basis in fight week.
Mm-hmm.
They probably put them out this week or next, or they're gonna put them out next week. It's not the countdown; it's the, what are those things called?
The embedded.
Embedded. There we go. Yeah, the embedded ones. And then during that fight week, the more embedded videos I saw, the more I started to like Brandon, and the less I started to like Davison. Because Davison, man, he's he comes from a very rural place in Brazil. He doesn't come from a big city or anything. He comes from a very rural village or whatever. And so now he made a little bit of money, and he's wearing I think it's like the Gucci hat, the Gucci cap or something, and he's wearing it. He's gotten some Gucci sunglasses or anything, and so he's trying to, he's got a little bit of cash, and I'm like, that's not, good for him, but it's like, come on, bro, you got, bigger things to worry about than. Anyway, not to say that he shouldn't get nice things for himself. It's, he's made the sacrifices over the years, and so anyway, good for him. But that kind of got on my nerves a little bit. But at the same time, they did go through, what he's been, everything that he's done, as far as for a living, besides the UFC, and he's a hairdresser. And I was like, oh, good for him. He'd like to, set up his own hair salon or whatever. It's like, all right, that's pretty cool. Hey man, he could be the who's a famous guy? I don't know any famous hairdressers here. Paul Mitchell, maybe? Could be the Paul Mitchell of Brazil. Anyway, but what I thought was really relevant to the fight itself is that is Davison's kind of attitude and his attitude shift from when he was beating down when he gave us the gift of Benavidez face to this fight. And that was he fought like several, let me look at his fights, because he fought quite a few times in a row. He beat Alex Perez, that's who it was. And I was like, who the hell did he beat? I was like, he beat somebody between giving us the Benavidez face. He beat Alex Perez, and I honestly don't remember who Alex Perez is. Anyway, he beat him, and then he made a quick turnaround for Brandon Moreno, and I noticed a shift in his attitude, a shift in his energy, sort of, and that was just due to the fact that I'm like, oh, this guy drank his own Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? He just had this air about him, like, oh, I'm gonna just run through this guy. But I'm like, not Brandon Moreno, man. Not as cool as a guy Brandon Moreno seems. He's just got that his I think his nickname it fits him to a T, the assassin baby, man, because he has a very like chill demeanor. It's like, oh, this guy, he can't possibly be that mean. But Brandon Moreno is tough as nails, man. And Figueiredo thought like, oh, I guess he somehow confused them for Benavidez or something. He thought he was just gonna give us Brandon Moreno face, but he was mistaken, because Brandon Moreno he showed I guess to a certain extent he may have won that fight, depending on how you scored I think this second, third, and fourth. But this time around, I think, I'm going with my gut. I'm not going. I mean, I would like to see Brandon Moreno win. Because I think he would be cool to see him as champion. He's a pretty chill guy. He likes nerdy stuff. He probably likes collecting figurines and comics and all that stuff from what I can see. So he'd be a pretty cool champ if you ever run into him in like a comic book store or something. But Figueiredo, he's up there. He didn't just split decision Benavidez or anything, because as much as we shit on Benavidez does have some skill. He's never never going to be champ, unfortunately. But I mean, I'm going to make my pick, and that's Figueiredo by decision. But there's one thing to take note: fight week, those embedded. If I see that Figueiredo still drinking his Kool-Aid and has that sort of energy mindset shift that I noticed, I think that's probably going to benefit Moreno during the fight, because there's confidence, and then there's overconfidence, cockiness, which I see in Figueiredo, which I saw in Figueiredo, and I get the feeling we're probably going to see. And I think he knows that he can't take Brandon Moreno down, so I think he's going to try harder. But I think so is Moreno. So because I think Moreno knows that he exposed Figueiredo as not being, as I guess per his last few fights, Figueiredo had this era of invincibility, but then Brandon Moreno showed like, holy shit, he could, he could go toe to toe and take it to a decision with Figueiredo. So I'll make my pick, which is Figueiredo by decision, but I don't know. I guess I'll have to make a read like during fight week, during the weigh-ins and everything. And if I see that Figueiredo still has that kind of overconfidence, cockiness, whatever you want to call it, and yeah, I mean that to me more than anything is going to determine how this fight is going to play out. I think Brandon Moreno's confidence is pretty high from his last fight, but yeah, I think that's the way I'm looking at it. So in my heart, I'd like Brandon Moreno to win, but my brain says Figueiredo's probably going to take it again.
Our next matchup and the main event, we've got Israel, the last style bender, Adesanya versus Marvin, the Italian Dream, Vettori. The odds are minus 240 for Adesanya, plus 200 for Vettori. And I won't spend too much time on this one. If the fight with Blachowicz didn't happen, I think Vettori would have had a better chance of beating Adesanya, because the way you beat Israel is exactly like Jean did. You take him down, you hold him down, and you just control him there. Having that happen to him at a higher weight class with a current sitting champion of Jan Blachowicz, I don't think there's going to be a chance in hell Israel Adesanya is going to get taken down at middleweight, because the way he handled that loss, I mean, he took it on the chin. He's like, hey, it happens. Like, you don't move up in a higher weight class and try to achieve greatness without stumbling a couple times. So I respect that he did that. Like, there was a certain point in time where like I was starting to hate Israel. And like when he came into the UFC, I was like a huge fan of this guy. I was like, damn, this guy's striking is great. He's a dork. He likes what I like. I like this guy. I want him to succeed. And then he was getting a little too damn cocky, drinking his own damn Kool-Aid, as you say. And I was not liking the dude. But the loss seemingly humbled him slightly. For Vettori, Vettori's Vettori. He's a blockhead, as Israel called him after their first fight. He's got a good chin. He's got some good skill. It's just that I think his path to the title is a little overrated. His last fight is a win over Kevin Holland. Had he finished Kevin Holland, I would have been like, oh, this might be a better matchup. We see that Marvin has the ability to finish people when you put him on the ground, but he couldn't finish Kevin Holland. He couldn't finish Jack Hermanson. He did finish Carl Roberson, but unfortunately, although I like Carl, he seems to be one of these guys that just cannot stop a submission. But yeah, I do not see a way in hell that Marvin wins this one. As much as like part of me wants to see him win, I like the narratives of like, oh, the first full-blooded Italian UFC champion, and it'd be nice, fuck it, put it in the history books. And I do still think Israel needs to kind of be taken down a peg, but personal feelings don't mean shit. I got Adesanya to win this one. I can see him knocking out Marvin Vettori in the later rounds. I think the first 3 rounds, Marvin, I think he has the good enough gas for 3 rounds. 4 rounds come in. The fourth round, I should say, I see a head kick knocking out Marvin Vettori after he's exhausted. So I'll go with Adesanya to win by a late, I'm going to say TKO. I don't think he'll knock him out cold. So I'll go with TKO Adesanya round number 4. And then he'll get back on his win streak, and we'll see who's next for Israel. More than likely, man, I don't know. Actually, not thinking about it, probably a Whitaker rematch. That'd be really cool. Seeing this new version of Whitaker, it'd be interesting to see. So, yeah, again, Adesanya to win, 4th round TKO.
Yeah, you covered it all. I don't really have much more to add. These guys already fought. Israel got the split decision the first time, but he wasn't as complete as he is now. And yeah, after his last fight with Jan, fighting Vettori, he's fighting basically what would be Jan's little brother, I guess, to a certain extent, in terms of style and whatnot. It wasn't the most exciting fight, but it's an MMA fight, so you can't really hold it against Jan that he made it a kind of boring fight. He did what he had to do to win. Would have been embarrassing for Jan to just keep it on the feet and get pieced up. But he has that Polish power, so I don't think he would have I think he would have let loose after a while, but he decided to do what he does best and use all of his skill set to beat Adesanya. Fortunately for Vettori, Adesanya, does well after, even in his wins, he learns, and he improves fight to fight. And so I think he's going to be ready for Vettori. Vettori thinks he's just going to go in there, leg hump Adesanya to the title, but that's not how it works. Adesanya, I see this fight going very similarly to how he beat Costa. I think he's going to take out Vettori's legs and then knock him out, and then doggy style Vettori. Probably 3rd round, I would say, if it gets that far. Maybe could even be the 2nd round, depending on how relentless Vettori is with the takedowns. I think he's gonna probably try from the get-go to take down Adesanya and or hold him up against the cage and such. But I think he's learned his lessons, and he's going to piece him up and then take out his legs. He's going to be too quick for Vettori. Vettori's going to go to the back of the line after this, and I think Adesanya is probably going to rematch with Derek Brunson next.
That'd be great.
Yeah, because I think because they said that he was actually supposed to fight Whitaker instead of Vettori, but then Whitaker denied. He said he wanted to spend time with his family or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then
actually, Brunson's fighting Darren Till. I just remembered that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought
it's a lot of marketing that doesn't go into promoting certain fights. You have to be on Instagram and Twitter to fucking see all these announced fights.
I guess he's rematching Brad Tavares then, because he's probably next in line. Because I thought I saw that Robert Whitaker was fighting. Oh no, he just fought Cannonier. Never mind.
No, he just fought Gastelum.
But he fought Cannonier before that.
Yep.
But he just beat Cannonier. All right. Well, I guess, or maybe he's fighting Paulo Costa. Who knows? So I guess that does leave room for a Brad Tavares rematch. Or maybe what do you call it? Gamebred goes up in weight and challenges him or something. Yeah, I don't really have too much more to add. I'll take Adesanya by TKO probably in the third or fourth round. But he's gonna piece him up. He's gonna chop at those legs, and Vettori's gonna dream about when he gets his next title shot.
And those have been our picks for UFC 263, Adesanya versus Vettori 2. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Love the comments, helps us out a lot. But yeah, that's been Johnny and Jose with TigerBomb MMA, and we'll catch you at the next fight.